when you just feel utterly, completely stuck.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're caught in this loop. Same thoughts, same feelings, maybe the same reaction over and over again.
Mm-hmm. It's exhausting.
And that voice inside, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's really loud, just saying, you're broken. This is just how you are. You'll never change. That feeling can be so powerful, right? So debilitating.
It absolutely is. And honestly, it's incredibly common. I think we all hit those points, maybe even long stretches, where it feels like our operating system is just glitching out.
Yeah, glitching is a good word for it.
It's running these old programs, you know, stuff that maybe helped once way back when, but now it just keeps us feeling rigid, stuck.
Right. Prevents us from moving forward. But what if feeling stuck isn't actually proof that you're broken? Like, what if it's not a personal failing?
Right.
What if it's just your amazing brain and it is amazing doing what it thinks is protecting you, but maybe, just maybe, it's working with some outdated information.
Right, like an old map for a city that's completely changed.
Yeah, exactly. And even better, what if there's a clear science-backed way to kind of update that internal operating system?
Is that?
To literally rewire your brain for more freedom, more well-being.
Okay, now you're talking. And that's precisely what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to unpack some really powerful insights from this incredible guide. It's called Breaking the Loop, your NeuroFlex ACT Workbook. It offers such a fresh perspective and, crucially, practical tools. It feels like a genuine pathway to transformation.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to help you shift that perspective. Right now, understand how your brain actually works, why it gets tangled up in those loops sometimes, and the big one, how it can be rewired. We're going to explore NeuroFlex ACT, that's pronounced ACT, like the verb.
Right, NF ACT.
Yeah. And then we'll get into its practical 6-skill system. It's all designed to help you become more psychologically flexible. Think of it like a guide to updating your internal OS. Moving from feeling rigid, maybe overwhelmed.
Yeah, trapped.
To feeling more open, more capable, and really connected to what actually matters to you deep down.
And this approach, it's not just about, putting a Band-Aid on things. It's not just managing symptoms, which is often where people start, understandably.
Sure.
It's really about reshaping the underlying patterns that create those symptoms in the first place. Building new mental pathways, new grooves, constructing something deeper, more resilient, more you from the inside out.
Okay.
It's about empowering you, really, to navigate life's ups and downs with a bit more wisdom, maybe a bit more ease.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with understanding the brain's sort of old operating system.
Yeah.
What Breaking the Loop, your NeuroFlex ACT workbook, calls the setup.
Right.
So imagine your brain is like the most advanced computer ever created, which, it kind of is, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And like any computer, it runs on an operating system. But this isn't software you just installed. This internal OS. It's this complex inner code built up over years and years of your life. Experiences, habits, beliefs, emotional reactions, ways of behaving.
That's a great way to put it. And it wasn't like a one-time install either. It was shaped, constantly updated by everything. Your environment growing up, your relationships, culture, big emotions, tiny memories, all of it.
Wow.
And its prime directive, its main job, efficiency and safety. It learned really fast what felt safe, what felt risky, and how to navigate the world basically to keep you, the user, out of harm's way.
Keep you alive.
Keep you alive, exactly.
Yeah.
It's constantly making predictions based on the past, trying to stay one step ahead of anything it thinks might be dangerous.
So I've got this incredible system, truly amazing biological engineering, but here's where the workbook gets really insightful. It talks about a survival engineer inside.
I like that term.
Yeah, me too. This part of your brain is like always on patrol, scanning for threats. Its number one job, protection. And it's really good at it. Millions of years of evolution have honed this thing. It's like a super sensitive, always on security system.
But, and here's the crucial bit, what happens when that system becomes, too protective? That's where things can get a bit glitchy, right? Where the survival engineer gets maybe a little overzealous. Imagine your brain running an old safety program. Maybe it was vital in some past situation, genuinely life-saving even.
Okay.
But now, it's stuck on repeat, just looping the same message. Danger, danger, danger. Even when, objectively there's no real threat right here, right now. The alarm just keeps blaring.
Like a smoke detector going off from burnt toast long after you've aired out the kitchen.
Exactly. It causes all this unnecessary stress, this disruption. Your nervous system gets kind of locked into this state of chronic high alert. even when you're physically safe.
And this ties into a really fundamental rule of brain learning, especially around fear and habits. Neurons that fire together wire together.
The classic Hebb's Law, essentially.
Right. It's a core principle. Beautiful, powerful mechanism. It just means if two things happen at the same time, your brain links them. Fast, strong. That's how we learn.
Think of your brain like a huge city, right, with this incredibly intricate network of roads. Every thought, feeling, experience, it's like a car traveling those roads. The more a route gets used, the wider it gets, the smoother, the faster. Little side streets can become these massive superhighways over time, almost automatic to travel down. Effortless. And when fear or any strong emotion is involved, your brain is remarkably efficient at building express lanes for those, prioritizes those connections for super quick response.
Breaking the loop. Your NeuroFlex ACT Workbook is this great example with young Sarah. Imagine she's playing, happy, in the yard. Suddenly, a big dog she doesn't know barks really loudly, bolts towards her.
Scary moment.
Totally scary. Her heart races, she cries out. In that split second, her brain, without her even thinking about it, writes a new rule. Dog equals danger.
Instant connection.
Instant connection. It's that brilliant protection system, remembering what hurt once so it can steer her clear next time. Survival 101. But it can create these really outdated maps, can't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because now, maybe every dog she sees, even a friendly little poodle, triggers that same old alarm. That neural pathway is just so deeply etched.
So this is how our inner world can become this deepening loop, this ecosystem, like a vinyl record stuck on a scratch, playing the same bit over and over.
Yeah, exactly. Thoughts, body sensations, emotions, behaviors, they're all tangled up together, feeding each other. It's not just A leads to B leads to C. It's more like a constant swirling feedback loop.
Okay, let's break that down. First, thoughts. These can come from what the workbook calls your fast brain, or that survival engineer.
Right. The quick automatic system.
It's just one thinking.
Some might call it.
Yeah.
Instinctive, automatic, brilliant for survival,
right.
Like recognizing a facial expression instantly. But these thoughts can also just pop up, often feeling like commands, like absolute truth, really compelling. Yes, those are the thought dictators. They sound so convincing. They might be labels like, I'm a failure, or I'm just not good enough.
Oof. Yeah.
Or helplessness declarations. I can't handle this. This is too much. Doom predictions. This is going to be a disaster.
Or mind reading. They definitely think I'm incompetent.
Oh, the mind reading one is tough.
Isn't it? Or rigid rules. I should always be calm. I must get this perfect. Or just urgent commands screaming, escape! Get out now!
And when you buy into those thoughts, when you fuse with them, the workbook uses that metaphor of tinted sunglasses.
Yeah, I love that one.
You forget you're wearing them.
Yeah.
You're seeing the world through the thought, not at the thought.
Yeah.
You mistake the thought map for the actual territory.
Exactly. And then you've got the sensations and emotions, your body signals responding to triggers. We all know the classic fight, flight, or freeze response, right? Ancient reactions to perceived threat.
These emotions often feel loud, urgent, like something must be done immediately. Your body tenses up, heart pounds, breath gets shallow. All gearing up for an emergency that often isn't actually happening in your immediate surroundings.
It feels so real, though.
It feels incredibly real. Think of emotions like the lights on your inner dashboard. Flashes of color, pulses of energy, signals. They're real. They carry information about what's going on inside you, but they aren't facts. And crucially, they aren't commands you have to obey.
Okay, so you don't have to slam on the brakes just because a light flashes.
Precisely. You can learn to listen without obeying. That's how you start to reclaim the driver's seat. When a feeling flares up, just pause. Notice the signal. Maybe name it, there's anxiety. Where is it in your body? Then you can choose your next move based on what actually matters to you, your values, not just whatever will turn that flashing light off the fastest.
That pause, that sounds key. It allows you to shift from just reacting to actually responding.
Exactly. From automatic to intentional. And then finally, there are the behaviors, your actions. Or sometimes, crucially, your inactions.
Like avoiding things.
Totally. Avoiding situations, procrastinating on tasks, or maybe lashing out, zoning out, over-preparing, constantly, endlessly scrolling.
Guilty.
We all do it. These behaviors often serve one main purpose. Make the discomfort stop right now. Short-term relief. But whether the action is obvious, like canceling plans, or internal, like pushing thoughts away, it accidentally reinforces the brain's original belief. See? That was dangerous. Good thing we avoided it.
Which brings us to the avoidance loop detector. Avoidance, the workbook calls it the pain-numbing app. It offers that quick fix, but at the cost of long-term freedom.
Right. It works too well sometimes. That's why it's so tempting. But over time, avoidance doesn't just dodge discomfort. It literally builds walls around your life.
Keeps you safe, but stuck.
Exactly. Safe but small. You don't learn, you don't grow, you don't heal. You just shrink your world to avoid tripping the alarm. What starts as maybe a sensible protection strategy slowly turns into a prison. Your brain's just doing its job with outdated code, preventing you from learning new, more flexible ways of being.
And then there's the flip side, the control app paradox. Trying to control your inner world, those thoughts, those feelings, it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Yeah, great metaphor.
You can do it for a bit, right? Push those feelings down. But try holding it there.
Exhausting. And the harder you push, the more forcefully it wants to pop back up. The more you wrestle with anxious thoughts, the bigger they seem to get. You're not just anxious. You're anxious about being anxious.
The meta-anxiety.
Totally.
Yeah.
You're not just sad. You're judging yourself for being sad, trying desperately to stop it. It's a draining, ultimately futile battle. The more you try to control, the more out of control you feel, which just feeds the loop again.
Okay, this is painting a picture. But here's the really crucial, hopeful message that breaking the loop, your NeuroFlex ACT workbook keeps coming back to. You are not broken. You are patterned.
That's powerful.
Isn't it? These avoidance habits, these control attempts, these loops, they aren't personal failings. They're not weaknesses. They're neural habits. They're survival strategies that your brain learned probably for very good reasons to keep you safe in the past.
They're adaptive then.
Exactly. They were your brain's best attempt to cope during tough times.
And the really good news, because your brain is incredibly plastic, meaning it can change, physically change, throughout your whole life.
Right. Not set in stone.
Not at all. What's been wired through repetition can absolutely be rewired through, as the workbook says, intention, awareness, and compassionate practice. Your struggles have a backstory, a reason, and they are fundamentally changeable. We're not trying to fix a broken brain. We're learning how to work with it, how to gently guide the parts that got stuck and create new, more helpful patterns.
Okay, so let's talk more about that superpower, neuroplasticity.
Yes. It just means your brain is this living, changing network, not a fixed machine. New connections form, old ones prune away. New rows can always be built. You are not stuck with your old patterns. That scientific truth is the bedrock of real, lasting change.
And it works based on two key rules, right, which are both pretty hopeful. First, use it or lose it.
Right. If you stop walking those old neural trails, the anxiety loop, the avoidance habit, they don't just stay there, they actually fade, like a disused path in a forest gets overgrown.
Weeds, branches, it becomes harder to travel.
Exactly. That's what happens when you don't react in the same old way. When you don't follow the thought dictator or avoid the discomfort, you're letting that old trail fade. You don't have to fight it. You just have to start walking it.
And the flip side?
Use it and improve it. While the old paths fade, you're actively forging new ones. The first time you try a new response, pausing instead of snapping, being curious instead of judgmental, it might feel awkward, clunky, uncomfortable even.
Yeah, unfamiliar.
Totally unfamiliar. But each time you walk that new path, you're clearing it, packing it down, making it smoother, wider, easier for the next time. That's why consistent, small, intentional actions are so incredibly powerful. You are physically strengthening new neural connections.
So the science of change, it really shows our brains are constantly updating based on what we do, feel, focus on. Targeted, repeated emotional experiences plus new choices that can literally rewire the brain.
Yep. And research points to the potential for significant brain changes, structural, functional, within maybe a 12 to 20 week window, just through consistent small shifts. This isn't magic. It's just how brains learn.
Every time you pause, turn towards discomfort, make a move aligned with your values, you're reshaping those pathways.
You absolutely are. And here's something really vital to hold on to during this process. Looping back doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're learning.
Oh, that's important.
It's so important. Change isn't a straight line. Old patterns will pop up again. You'll catch yourself on the old trail sometimes.
Yeah.
But every single time you notice and gently, kindly steer yourself back to the new path. You're reinforcing the change. You're telling your brain, oops, not that way, this way now.
Yeah.
Just practice. Your brain's solidifying the new routes. Every gentle return builds resilience.
Okay. So if our brains can change, how do we actually do it? Practically, actionably. That brings us to NeuroFlex ACT, pronounced ACT.
Right, NF-ACT. It brilliantly blends that cutting-edge science of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, with a powerful practice of psychological flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
Psychological flexibility is basically your ability to respond more freely, more intentionally, more adaptively to whatever life throws at you, the good and the bad.
Okay.
So NF-ACT at its core is this brain-based, flexibility-focused evolution of really well-established therapeutic ideas. Its purpose is to be your internal compass, a practical 6-skill system to guide you step by step out of that feeling of mental rigidity and into a more open, values-led life.
So you learn skills like being present, diffusion, separating from thoughts.
Yep. Acceptance, committed action. Not just as ideas, but as actual concrete brain-changing habits. Skills that let you be present with what's happening, open to your experience, and actively move towards what truly matters to you.
So it's deeper than just managing stress.
Much deeper. You're reshaping the very patterns that create the stress, creating new mental grooves, building something more profound, transforming your inner landscape fundamentally. It's about reclaiming your mind, reclaiming your life, by building these habits that foster real, lasting well-being.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's dive into the NeuroFlex ACT upgrade journey. The 6 skills. Skill number 1, start where you are, mapping your loops with curiosity.
Exactly. The core idea here, awareness in step 1, always. You become this compassionate cartographer of your inner world, observing what's going on inside without judgment, like a scientist gathering data.
Because you can't change what you don't see, right?
Precisely. We simply can't change what we don't first see or understand. And a really practical tool from breaking the loop, your NeuroFlex ACT Workbook, is the journaling template. Spotting your alarm bell.
Okay.
It's a structured but really gentle way to help you notice what triggers the alarm, what physical sensations pop up, what emotions are there, what's your fast-brained or survival engineer yelling in the form of thoughts. What do you think your brain is trying to protect you from in that moment, and what did you actually do?
So it's like detective work, but kind detective work.
Kind detective work, exactly. Not self-criticism. It fosters genuine insight into your patterns.
And then there's the symptom loop diagram. That sounds useful.
It's simple, but incredibly powerful. It helps you map out a cycle: thought, sensation, behavior, thought, sensation. Take something that feels murky and overwhelming and makes it observable, understandable, and therefore changeable.
Like Maya's story in the workbook.
Exactly. She'd sit at her desk, feel that familiar shoulder tension, and her fast brain would immediately scream, "Pain means danger. Stop." And then she'd end up lying down for hours, desperate for the discomfort to stop. Her big shift started when she began to separate the raw sensation of tension from the emotional story and the cognitive noise around it, using what the workbook calls a neurofunctional check-in.
Which is?
Just pausing, taking a breath, noticing the sensation itself without instantly labeling it danger or needing to escape it. That tiny pause gave her just enough space to observe instead of automatically reacting.
Wow. Just that little bit of separation.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And once you can observe these loops with some compassionate distance, the next step is often naming your loops.
Giving them a title.
Yeah. Something descriptive, maybe even a little lighthearted, like the worry story, my old friend back flare, or the imposter syndrome show at work.
Ah, I like that.
Right. This simple act creates crucial psychological distance. It helps you remember, oh, right, this is just something my brain learned to do. It's an old program running, and now I'm learning something new. It subtly disrupts those worn-out circuits, invites conscious choice, and signals to your nervous system, okay, this feeling is familiar, maybe uncomfortable, but not an immediate threat.
So that initial awareness, that curiosity, even just naming it, it fundamentally changes your relationship with it all.
It really does. Every time you meet discomfort with compassion instead of fear, you are literally reshaping the roads in your brain. Those old panic highways start to fade, and you're building new pathways towards curiosity, flexibility, and trusting you can handle what comes up. That is rewiring in action. You're creating new options.
Okay, skill 1, awareness and mapping. Got it. What's skill 2?
Skill 2 is about upgrading your perspective by normalizing your brain's messages. The core idea: thoughts and feelings are just signals. They're not always facts, and they are definitely not commands you have to obey.
Even though they feel like it sometimes.
Oh, they feel incredibly real and urgent. Your brain is a fantastic storyteller, constantly churning out narratives, commentaries that feel like absolute truth. But they're just stories, mental events.
This is where experiential diffusion comes in, getting unstuck from the thoughts.
Exactly. Diffusion, unfusing, creating that crucial psychological space between you, your core observing self, and your thoughts. Remember the tinted sunglasses metaphor?
Yeah, seeing through the thought versus at the thought.
Right. Diffusion is like taking off the sunglasses. You can see the thought clearly as a mental event passing through, rather than being totally caught up in its content. You don't have to fight your thoughts, change them, or make them go away. You just change your relationship to them.
How does that work in practice? Like Leo's story from the workbook.
Yeah, Leo's story is a great example. He used to get totally consumed by anxious thoughts. Gotta forget that email. This project is going to fail. They just spin and spin.
Sounds familiar.
Right. So instead of fighting them, he started simply naming them.
I'm having the thought that I forgot to send that email. Just noticing it as a thought. Okay. Sometimes he'd even get playful, imagine the thought, in a silly voice, like a chipmunk, or sing it, just to reduce its power, its dictatorial grip. And he added kindness, placing a hand on his heart while noticing the thought.
So it wasn't about fixing himself.
Not at all. It was about cultivating a new way to relate to his mind, more compassionate, more detached. And guess what? Over time, his brain started to listen. The thoughts didn't necessarily disappear, but they lost their urgency, their command power.
That's huge. And this applies to feelings too, right? Feelings aren't facts, they're signals.
Absolutely. Back to the dashboard lights metaphor. Emotions are loud, urgent signals demanding attention. But they aren't mandates. That flashing oil light, it means check the oil, not abandon the car on the highway forever.
You can learn to listen without obeying. Pause. Notice the feeling. Name it, okay, that's frustration. Where is it in your body? What might it be pointing to? Then choose your next move based on your values, not just what will shut the feeling off fastest.
Okay, now, you mentioned this earlier, but let's clarify that crucial point about safety. Because someone might be thinking, but what if the threat is real?
Yes, thank you for bringing that back up. It is absolutely crucial. When we talk about sending safety signals to the brain, we are not talking about ignoring real danger or putting on rose-tinted glasses. Safety isn't denial. It's about discernment. Teaching your brain to tell the difference.
So real danger external, immediate needs action, fast harm coming, unsafe relationship causing active harm, medical emergency. Your alarm should go off. It's vital.
Exactly. Your system is working perfectly then. But most of the time, especially with chronic stress, anxiety, persistent pain without injury, the danger isn't actually external or immediate. It's internal.
An echo.
An echo of danger. Your brain reacting to a memory, an old pattern, a fearful prediction. Like panic before a meeting, a familiar ache, dread opening email. It's a false alarm from an overprotective system.
So the shift is, when we gently tell our brain it's safe, we mean, right now, in this specific moment, there is no tiger in the room. You can be here. You can stay with this discomfort.
Precisely. It's about teaching your brain discernment, helping it become more accurate, less reactive, not shutting the alarm off, but calibrating it better to what's really happening now. Every time you reframe a loop, approach discomfort with curiosity, you're giving your brain new data. This feeling is familiar, yes, uncomfortable, yes, but not dangerous. That's rewiring.
That discernment feels key. Okay, skill 3, reclaiming the driver's seat, training focus, unhooking from the thought dictator.
Right. This is all about consciously choosing where you place your attention, moment by moment, gently bringing your mind back, even when it wants to wander off into worry or rumination.
Why does that work? Neurologically.
Because shifting your attention from that internal mental chaos, the spinning thoughts, the arguments to something stable in your senses, actually calms your nervous system. Focusing on your breath, sounds around you, the feeling of your feet on the floor. It signals safety.
Okay.
It allows your brain to shift gears, operating from its more thoughtful planning regions, the prefrontal cortex, instead of the reactive emotional limbic system. It's a deliberate act that builds new attention habits and a more flexible, resilient nervous system over time. Pure experience-dependent neuroplasticity.
And patience is important here, right? Tiny shifts, normalizing getting distracted.
Absolutely critical. Those old neural networks are like deep riverbeds. Water flows there easily. Building new pathways takes time and consistent effort. Distraction is 100% normal, expected even. Every single time you notice you've drifted, and you gently, kindly bring your focus back. That's the rep. That's the practice. You're strengthening the new pathway. No criticism needed, just a gentle return.
Like Sarah and her panic planner in the workbook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sarah, the designer, struggled with intense anxiety, especially before deadlines. The panic planner was her mind's frantic list of worries, worst-case scenarios, complete with racing heart, shortness of breath.
Been there.
Right. She learned to just acknowledge its frantic suggestions, notice the physical stuff without judgment, then gently guide her attention back to her design work. It wasn't magic. The panic planner still showed up, still yelled sometimes. But she realized she didn't have to obey it. She could notice it and then choose where to put her focus.
And the outcome?
She learned she could carry the anxiety and still show up, feel her heart race and still make design decisions, notice the inner commentary and still engage meaningfully with her life and work. That's psychological flexibility in action. Being present with the hard stuff, acknowledging it, and still moving towards what matters. She wasn't waiting for the anxiety to vanish. She was learning to live fully with it.
Wow. Okay. Skill 4. Step by step towards freedom. This sounds like exposure.
It is, but with some crucial NeuroFlex ACT twists. It's about gradually, intentionally approaching uncomfortable experiences, thoughts, feelings, situations you've been avoiding, specifically to update your brain's threat database.
So, talking back to that overprotective security consultant in the brain.
Exactly. That survival engineer avoids discomfort, gets short-term relief, but prevents the brain from getting new, updated info. Like avoiding that golden retriever.
Leads to avoiding parks, then anywhere there might be dogs.
Right. The original fear memory stays frozen, unchallenged by new experiences that could prove it wrong. What we're doing here, scientifically, you could call it fear extinction or memory reconsolidation. But simply put, you're teaching your brain through direct experience, hey, that old alarm needs an update. This isn't actually dangerous anymore.
Does the brain delete the old fear file?
Not exactly. It's more sophisticated. It builds new, smoother superhighways, right next to the old pothole dirt roads of fear. When an old fear gets triggered, it's like the brain opens that old file. And for a brief window, maybe a few hours, that memory becomes temporarily unlocked, editable.
Ah, a window of opportunity.
Exactly. That's your moment to insert new data, like the felt sense of, I survived this, or that feeling passed, or I was uncomfortable, but I was actually safe. When the brain saves the file again, it includes this new updated info. The old fear path becomes less dominant. The new safer path becomes more accessible.
Like having an inner scientist running little experiments.
Totally. Your amygdala, that threat detector, is like an overcautious security guard with outdated rules. The goal is to provide carefully curated experiences to gently debug the internal software, teaching the system better discernment, showing it, look, we can handle this. Nothing catastrophic happened. The old alarm isn't accurate here.
And making it values-driven is key.
Absolutely key. A values-driven exposure planner turns simple exposure into something powerful, meaningful, motivating. Because your survival brain will try to talk you out of it. This is scary. Turn back. But connecting the uncomfortable step to your values like connection, courage, learning, provides the deep motivation to lean in anyway. You're moving towards something important, not just away from fear.
And this connects to the idea of willingness versus maybe traditional bravery.
Yes, crucial distinction. Traditional bravery often implies no fear, or gritting your teeth and pushing through like a warrior. It can feel forced, exhausting.
Yeah.
Willingness, in the ACT sense, acknowledges the fear, the discomfort. It's definitely present, maybe screaming loud, but you choose to lean in anyway. It's quieter, steadier, like gently coaxing a scared animal, not wrestling it, holding the discomfort with compassion while still taking that small, valued step.
Like David in the workbook with social anxiety.
Perfect example. His monster voice told him he was awkward, unlikable. His shift began when he started seeing that voice not as truth, but as old, faulty programming. He committed to willingness. Tiny steps, like holding eye contact with the barista for 1 extra second, even as the monster voice screamed.
Just 1 second.
Just 1 second. He took a breath, remembered his value of connection, did it. Noticed the flush in his face, allowed it. Nothing terrible happened. That was a micro win. New data for the brain.
And the outcome for him.
Transformative. He learned to tell the difference between real danger and the false alarm of anxiety. The anxiety still pops up sometimes. The brain doesn't just forget old paths, but it doesn't run his life anymore. He can observe it with curiosity. His world expanded from the prison of fear to being guided by what his heart actually wanted. More connection, more meaning.
Okay, powerful stuff. Skill 5. Write your muse story. Discovering what truly matters. Expanding identity.
Exactly. This is about connecting with your deepest values, your heart's compass, to guide your actions. And in doing so, reshape your very sense of who you are beyond those old limiting labels.
Values aren't goals, right? They're like directions.
Perfect way to put it. They're not destinations you arrive at. They're cardinal directions. Qualities like courage, connection, creativity, compassion that you choose to bring to any moment, any situation. They're your heart's deepest longings for how you want to live. They're what make you feel truly alive and aligned.
And acting on these values actually changes the brain.
It does, in several key ways. First, when you act in line with values, especially when it's tough, your internal alarm system, the survival engineer, actually starts to dial down its hypervigilance. Your brain learns, okay, we can handle difficult feelings. Second, your action system builds new habits, literally strengthens the neural connections for those valued behaviors, making them easier to choose next time. And third, maybe most profoundly, your identity expands. You start seeing yourself differently. These three things reinforce each other.
How do you figure out your values? The workbook has exercises.
Yeah, some really insightful ones. Your best life story asks you to imagine your future self, maybe 5 years out, living a life that feels really authentic. What are you doing? But more importantly, what qualities are you embodying? Like Sarah imagined being patient with her daughter, brave in meetings, spontaneous with friends. It clarifies the virtues you want to live by.
Okay.
Then there's the tribute test. Imagine someone celebrating your life, way down the road. What qualities of character would you hope they'd highlight? Marcus hoped people would say he showed up, made them feel heard, kept learning despite anxiety, cuts right to the core of what matters.
Wow.
And moments of aliveness. Recall times you felt truly alive, engaged, present. What values were active then? Alina remembered sitting with her neighbor's father after a fall, just offering comfort. In that tough moment, she saw herself embodying compassion and presence. These moments are clues to your unique values.
And values are chosen, right? Not just found.
Crucially, yes. You get to decide what matters to you, not what you think you should care about. It's empowering. They're your compass, guiding you, and they can evolve as you grow. They are your North Star.
And this connects to identity expansion, challenging those old stories like, I'm the anxious one.
Exactly. Your brain is a master storyteller, creating narratives about who you are. Sometimes these stories become prisons. I'm always stressed. I can't handle conflict. When that happens, it's time for gentle renovation, because your brain is changeable. New experiences, new actions, update its map of who you are, expanding your sense of self beyond those old, tight labels.
And that matters because our sense of self affects our body.
Directly impacts your physiology. Believing I'm always stressed keeps your nervous system on high alert. Acting differently, even slightly, provides new evidence for a new identity story. That's why repetition is so key. Each time you act in a way that contradicts the old story, you strengthen different neural pathways, reinforcing a new, more expansive self-concept.
And making a visual life map helps the brain feel safe with change.
Yeah, turning values into concrete steps on a map helps your brain and nervous system feel oriented. It shows your system you're not just wandering aimlessly into scary new territory, but following a thoughtful, values-based route reduces resistance. And neuroscience backs this up. Acting on values strengthens brain regions involved in self-concept and nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
You're literally changing the story of who you are at a neural level.
Okay, makes sense. Last skill, skill 6, living without the box, ongoing rewiring.
Yep. This acknowledges that deep, lasting change isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing, non-linear process of integrating these new patterns into the messy reality of daily life.
Integration means weaving the skills into small moments.
Exactly. Micro moments. Softening your shoulders during a tense chat. Kindly redirecting a self-critical thought as it arises. Pausing for one breath before reacting. These small, consistent moments tell your brain, hey, these skills are actually useful out here in the real world.
And setbacks, plateaus, they're normal.
Totally normal. Expected even. Change is rarely smooth. Old patterns will resurface, especially under stress. The brain defaults to the well-worn paths. Remember, looping back doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're learning. And plateaus. Often they come right before a breakthrough. Your brain's just consolidating the learning at a deeper level.
So how do you sustain motivation when it fluctuates?
The focus shifts away from big, dramatic leaps towards the quieter, less dramatic work of maintenance and refinement. Those consistent, small, daily choices, that's where the real magic, the architecture of change, happens.
The brain metropolis metaphor.
Yeah. Old patterns are wide boulevards automatic. New responses start as faint forest paths. But with practice, they become well-worn pathways, eventually maybe new superhighways. You don't fight the old road, you just keep choosing, walking, and strengthening the new one.
And eventually it becomes more automatic, like tying shoes.
Exactly. From conscious effort to unconscious competence. Mindfulness. Self-compassion. Initially, they take deliberate focus. Over time, they can become more spontaneous responses. and your whole nervous system recalibrates. Consistently relating differently to thoughts and feelings gives it new data, shifting it from chronic vigilance towards calm alertness, greater inner safety.
And that has ripple effects.
Huge ripple effects. Better relationships, less reactivity, more presence, more creativity, less energy spent managing internal conflict. Yeah. Even physical health benefits, less time spent in the chronic stress response. It's holistic.
This builds an anti-fragile self, stronger through challenge.
Yes, an internal system that learns and grows from stress, rather than just being worn down by it. Your nervous system learns through experience that distress doesn't always equal danger. That fosters resilient flexibility. You can bend without breaking.
And it all comes back to that pause, the power of choice.
The absolute heart of it, that crucial space between stimulus, what happens, and response. Reacting is fast, familiar, fear-driven, old programming. Responding is spacious, intentional, values-grounded, chosen from presence. Every pause you create in that space is a new trailhead, a chance to choose a different path.
So the ongoing journey is like an evolving map.
Exactly. It involves attuned self-observation, staying curious about inner signals, thoughts, parts of yourself, without judgment. Consistent, flexible practice those small neural investments compound. And seeking support when needed. Deep work sometimes needs a guide for co-regulation, witnessing, safety.
The workbook has tools for this ongoing part, like the loop spotting practice sheet.
Yeah, it helps you become that gentle detective for your patterns, noticing early warning signs, physical, emotional, mental urges, then applying skillful responses, kind self-talk, gentle movement, naming emotions, diffusion, somatic tracking. That is how the brain rewires, one skillful response at a time, building new possibilities.
And reclaiming milestones, noting progress.
It's so important. Consciously mapping your progress, not just big wins, but subtle shifts in identity, loops softening, new patterns emerging, insights gained. It helps your body and brain really register the truth of your progress, builds that felt sense of safety, accomplishment, self-trust, shows you the tangible evidence of your transformation.
And the Reclaim and Rewire Manifesto.
A powerful summary tool, clearly identifying old loops versus new chosen patterns, clarifying core values, pinpointing daily anchors, micro-rituals, and writing an embodied truth statement, like, I am becoming someone who meets fear with breath and chooses action anyway, or I am someone who trusts my inner wisdom and moves forward with compassion. It's a declaration of who you are becoming, something your nervous system can start to align with.
Wow, okay. So bringing it all together, the core message is...
You are not broken. You are patterned. And the incredible, liberating truth is patterns can be rewired. Your brain is always learning, always adapting, always capable of creating new pathways, new ways of being.
The power to change is literally woven into our biology.
It absolutely is. Every conscious choice, every pause, every moment of curiosity and compassion you bring inside. That's an act of rewiring. You are literally reshaping your internal landscape, building a life with more freedom, more purpose.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If your nervous system is constantly learning from your experiences, what's one small, consistent action you can commit to starting today? Something that will teach your brain a new way forward, one tiny, gentle step at a time.
That's the invitation. This journey, it's continuous, definitely imperfect, but it is profoundly transformative. Keep walking, keep exploring with kindness. You're not just reshaping your brain, you're reclaiming your truest self.